Hello, hello, we're back, and this is the third painting, 13th assignment in block 2 of Evolve Artists. As you can see, we've got a cup, a box, origami box, and the round thing down there is my bar of soap. I decided to do a cup because cups are pretty common in still lifes, and actually, before all of this still life setup stuff started, I still have a few ideas of some things that I'd like to paint, and they involve cups and bowls that have designs on them. They're a little bit complicated and they're a little bit shiny, so I can't do them right away. But I hope to get to them one day, once I get near the tail end of block 3 in Evolve, or maybe if I move on to the advanced levels. But there are some cups and bowls and things that I really want to paint. Anyway, so I decided to get started on that practice with a more simple cup. And this one's a black cup because I thought it might be a good idea to practice some of the lessons that I learned with the black cats in block 1. And it's just a very, very plain, simple black teacup with a thin handle. And remember, I think I mentioned in the last video that I gave myself some guidelines. So the teachers give us guidelines, like the first few paintings, they want us to keep things simple, no reflections and highlights, just focus on the basics, which are shadows, lights, sharp edges, and gradients. But for me, I also gave myself the additional challenge of trying to do something paper and something boxy in every single one of my paintings. So in this case, I decided to merge the boxy and paper requirement into making myself an origami box and then tilting that kind of on its side on a piece of soap and leaning it against the cup to form this particular still life setup. I want to do some things, they told us to play around a little bit with placement of objects, angles, and, different configurations to make the image more interesting. You don't have to stack things exactly perpendicular or parallel all the time. So that's why I decided to put this paper box at a diagonal. And another general rule that they have us pay attention to when we're deciding on what we want to do for our still life setup is we want to have things, I think it was like 1/3 in the light and 2/3 in shadow. No, 2/3 in light and 1/3 in shadow, sorry. Basically, you want to have some parts of the painting in light and some parts in shadow, and it shouldn't be exactly 50-50 because sometimes beautiful things have a slight asymmetry to them, right? So yeah, so I'm learning in this part of the program, I'm learning not just about how to do the painting stuff, or how to do drawings, but also how to set up still lifes. I actually sometimes sit there for a while the day before. So I usually do my painting sessions on the weekends. So sometimes on Friday or Thursday, I'll take out my shadow box and the light source and then grab a few objects and just sit there for 10-20 minutes arranging items in different configurations, swapping items in and out to try to figure out what I want to draw before I actually do the drawing. Sometimes I do the drawing that day as well, and then I do the painting on the weekend day because on weekends I have more time to take my time and set up and clean up and all of that. But it was interesting that a big part of this process actually is deciding what to draw, because now we're not given the picture that they want us to draw. We have to decide for ourselves. And so there are a lot of things running through my head because on the one hand, you want to follow the instructions that they give you, but the instructions that they give you are pretty broad. So within that, there's a lot of wiggle room, and I've seen my classmates do a lot of different things. Some of my classmates and peers are pretty advanced artists. Like, this is not their first rodeo. They've been painting for many years, and they've just come to evolve to hone their skills even more, so they can do more complicated subjects in their still lives. But me, I know that I'm not there. I'm not at that level. I need to take things slowly and make sure that I really solidify my foundations before I try to do anything crazy. So I try to stick to simple things. But of course, there's always a temptation to push yourself maybe a little bit more than you should when you see your classmates doing awesome stuff in the Facebook or in the homework uploading tool. They have a gallery at the bottom where you can see some of the best works that the other students around the world are doing. And it's really inspirational. And that's one of the fun things about art, I think, is that I love seeing how well other people do, and they're just so inspiring. And there's no sense of, it's not a competition. That's what I love about art, is that this isn't a competition. Because I mean, yes, there are some people who are better than others or whatever, but art has so many avenues down which you can go. There's so many different styles, there's so many different choices that you can make. And art itself, there are so many angles to it. Like there, it's not just the painting, the drawing, the the choice of how you set up the items in your still life. There's so many things you can do with art that, like, competition just, it's irrelevant kind of. And I kind of like how there's a world where that doesn't matter, where there's always room for another great artist. Um, you'll never have too many. It's not like a really, really, really strict hierarchy where you can only have one top-notch artist and everybody else is not relevant or whatever. I think sometimes in certain fields like classical music or ballet or something like that, they do have a very strict hierarchy where there is a limited number of spots at the top. And I mean, yeah, you can kind of have your own style, but there's only so many ways that you can interpret a classical piece, I think, and so the competition can be really fierce. But I think when it comes to art, the hierarchy is not as strict. It's just, what do you enjoy painting? What looks good to you, and how many other people also think it looks good as well. I've seen lots of different kinds of art where I really like it, and I feel like it's underrated. Yeah, underrated. So like a lot of people haven't discovered this guy yet. Uh, and then on the flip side, I've seen artists where I'm like, I don't get this. I don't know why people like this, and yet a lot of people like it. So that's the nice thing about art, is that there's always room for more people if they really want to do it. And not to mention, it's really relaxing and fun to do all of this, and to practice your creativity, not just in the actual act of painting itself, but in the setting up of the still life, the deciding what objects you want to paint and how you want to arrange them, and paying attention to the angles and how the shadows fall and so on and so forth. In this one, I really kind of wish that we were allowed to do reflections and highlights, because I think that could have brought out the paper box so much more. However, the cup did turn out all right, so that was cool. You can see that it is a black cup, even though we have fairly limited values that we're working with. Only 2 shadows, 2 lights, and then of course the admixtures in between. Now I'm just touching up the edge of the cup so that you can see that there's a flatness to the top of that cup. And there you have it. A spot of tea, which is an origami box, piece of soap, and the cup. All right. I will see you guys in the next video, and until then, keep on enjoying and creating beautiful things. Bye.